Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'd ask for you to take your seats. I'm going to begin with the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to the Jerome M. Westheimer Sr. and Wanda Odie Westheimer Distinguished Visiting Artist Chair, Mildred Howard. My name is Mark White. I'm the Wiley Dean and Bill Saxon Director here at the Fred Jones, and I'm very pleased to have all of you here tonight. Ms. Howard serves as our 7th guest artist in the university program. The Westheimer Chair provides an opportunity for the Fred Jones Jr. Museum of Art to exhibit the work of a contemporary artist of significant merit. On behalf of the Board of Visitors of the Fred Jones Jr. Museum of Art and the OU Weizenhofer Family College of Fine Arts, I would like to express our utmost appreciation to Mrs. Wanda Odie Westheimer and her family for the continued support of this important program. Ms. Westheimer is under the weather tonight, unfortunately, and unable to attend with us, but we are grateful to have her son, George Odie. George, will you stand up? Tonight, we also have a number of people that are special to the museum, all of you to begin with, but I do want to note that we have 2 members of our Board of Visitors, Molly Crawley and Mary Jane Rutherford. Thank you for attending tonight. And multiple members of our Members Association Board, Brad Benson, Gary Gress, Wally Huskanen, Lynette Laubin, Nicole Poole, and Ed O'Rear. Thank you all for attending. So without further ado, I will introduce tonight's guest artist. Over the course of her influential career, artist Mildred Howard has used a variety of media to engage in pointed yet nuanced examinations of the history and politics of gender, race, and other issues central to contemporary society. Working in collage, sculptural assemblage, and large-scale installations, Howard assembles a blend of American folk art, family photographs, and antique engravings, among other appropriated objects, to explore both cultural memory and the historical roots of topical issues such as oppression, sexual harassment, and personal privacy. A native of San Francisco, Howard received her MFA from John F. Kennedy University in Orinda, California in 1985 and has worked in the Bay Area for the majority of her career. This is her first serious visit to Oklahoma, so we're very happy to have her here, spending a couple of days with us. During her distinguished career, she has been the recipient of the Adeline Kent Award from the San Francisco Art Institute in 1991, the Joan Mitchell Foundation Award in 2004-2005, the Lee Krasner Award in 2015, the Nancy Graves Grant for Visual Artists in 2017, and in 2018, she was named an Honorary Doctor of Fine Arts and the Douglas McAgee Distinguished Achievement Award from the San Francisco Art Institute. Those of you in the art world know these are really significant honors, and so it's really to Mildred's credit that she has received these. Without further ado, I will like to introduce Mildred Howard, the Westheimer Distinguished Visiting Artist.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's so great to see all of you out here. And thanks to the Westheimer family for supporting this project. This one? Yeah. So what is it about this creative process that leads one on this ongoing journey of wonder with your best friend, curiosity? Just as you may have to read between the lines of a newspaper to get the real story, you will find it is exactly the same with life. There is something in between the moments, in between the colors that everyone can see, or the sounds that I can hear, or the colors that only I see, the notes only I can hear. Could it be the view from the window as I drove I-80 East a few weeks ago? Maybe it was the road trip through Paso Robles just before you hit I-5, when what I saw almost took my breath away. The rolling hills looking like sleeping lovers covered in a blanket of gold dust. Their color reminded me of the block of cadmium yellow next to the old newspapers that I thought about selling on eBay. I noticed that a spot of lamp black had dropped from the fingertips onto the yellow. I need to add a little Payne's gray to that blue, alongside that aubergine and the red on the edge. Is that Abby Lincoln singing, "The world is falling down, hold my hand"? Sometimes this station gets it right. The walls of my studio are vibrating gently from the sound of Snoop Dogg blasting on the radio in the parked car in front. Suddenly, the combination of sounds begin to syncopate to the movement of my hand, back and forth, up and down, this way or that, and then the phone rings. Damn, should I answer it or let it go? So I use poetry a lot in my work and in my large-scale sculptural installations. So when I'm working on public art commissions, oftentimes I create a space of contemplation. And I oftentimes meet with the public in order to get inspiration and to get their view, because you always want them to be a part of that process, especially when it comes to public art. So when speaking with a diverse, like polyglot community, it's useful to turn to language. The piece that you're looking at now is done in a library in Sacramento, California. And there you can read the letters they're palindrome letters. You can read them from either side. And I imagine it separates the children's section from the adult section. And when I did it, I could imagine children trying to make up words based on those letters. And this one is one that I did that in San Francisco. It's an overpass that brings together several communities, 3 shades of blue. And I worked with the poet Quincy Troop to develop a poem based on those communities. And so you can read the poem going in either direction. And one of the things that brings people together is music. And since San Francisco was considered one of the jazz communities of the world, I wanted to bring that whole kind of polyrhythm to me into art. So your footsteps, the sound of the traffic, the voices layered on top of one another is what I was thinking about doing that when I did this piece. So this is an interesting story. I'm gonna have to tell you this one. I was selected to do a piece for the San Francisco airport. And originally I was going to do these suitcases on the wall and maybe like 1,000 suitcases mounted together and then cast them in bronze. And the title of it was, "Is this your suitcase, ma'am?" And the people at the airport, they didn't like that too much. But they said, "But we like your conceptual thinking." So I didn't want to say no. And when I got home and I'm thinking, okay, now what am I going to do this time? And right when I said that, Dizzy Gillespie came on the radio and he was playing Salt Peanuts. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. But Dizzy played the trumpet, and the trumpets are bugles. So I couldn't use the trumpet, so I turned to saxophones because saxophone players. So there are 130 saxophones that I bought from antique shops, eBay, travels around the world, and mounted them all together and put the first 4 movements of Salt Peanuts. And I don't know if you know John Handy. John Handy has a song called Hard Work. He's known for that. I think that was out in the 80s, but Google him when you get home. John Handy is a friend of mine because Kenny Dorham was a trumpet player, a jazz trumpet player, and he was my cousin. And Kenny Dorham and John Handy played together along with Miles and all those people. So John Handy was so upset seeing all those saxophones until he did a trade with me. And then it was all good. This commission is on the Richmond BART station and parking garage. Richmond has the highest percentage of prostate cancer in men in the country. It also has one of the highest illiteracy rates. So I don't know if you know the MacArthur Fellow Ishmael Reed. Ishmael Reed and I called Ishmael to ask him if he would work with me on this project, to work with Project Read, which is a program for people learning how to read, and to develop a poem that I would then have put into a work of art. So we worked for about 6 months with this group, and as a result, this poem that Ishmael Reed, and I'll read it later, did, and it's cut in faceted corten steel. So as the time of the day passes, the shadows are cast across the building. And here's the other side being installed. Glide Affordable Housing is a 14-story complex in San Francisco's Tenderloin. And Glide Church, started by Cecil Williams, built this house for the formerly homeless. And again, when I was asked to apply for this project, I was in Bellagio at the Rockefeller Foundation working. The Rockefeller Foundation is given to a select group of artists to come and spend time just to do your work. And this was my second time going. And so I had to get the interview over the phone. And I read the interview, I told them what I was going to do while they were projecting images of my work. And then I didn't hear anything, and they were very quiet. So I'm thinking, okay, you didn't get that one, just move on. And then later, I got a call saying, I got it. So home has always been an interest to me. What is home? Some people think it's where you live. Some people think it's the United States. But what is one's definition of home? And that is what we work with this group of homeless to find out what is home. And what I like about it is like amazing grace wakes us to the beauty of this home, and justice falls like waterfalls. So those are some of the quotes that are in this poem. And the poem weaves in and out of the surface of the building. So you'll see parts of the word and it'll catch your eye. And like art, maybe you will just stop and take a look. This is my last completed large piece that I did in 2015. Hunters Point in San Francisco. Have you guys heard about it on the news? It's been a lot of controversy because the soil is so damaged. It was a former shipyard, and it was, I think the military were there during World War II. And a lot of people from Texas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, migrated to this area to work in the shipyards. This is one of the places. And again, I had to work with the community, get ideas, and I came up with this 22-foot Rococo frame, and it's out of bronze, cast bronze. And because I wanted not only to frame the landscape, which is incredibly beautiful, but to frame those who walk through it and those who spent their lives working there. the history of the United States with a few missing parts. Um, I was building a totem of books. I collect books and old books, and I was drilling holes in them. So if you have a stack of books, say that was 13 feet high, and each book weighed 2 or 3 pounds, then you have to have a base that's strong enough to hold those books. And I was drilling holes in this book, and I stopped. I don't know why I stopped. I just stopped, and I opened it, and this is what I read. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe, teeming free, the wretched refuse of your shore. Send these the homeless tempest cost to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And I read it out loud, and it was like, it almost brought tears to my eyes. So I decided to open the other volume. And this is what it said in between the holes. Because my African ancestors didn't come that way. They came through the bellies of the ship, through the shores of North Carolina, and worked their ways to the Gulf of Mexico to a little small town called Van Vleck in Matagorda County. And that was also a slave port. So here it says, here was, unlike their own familiar towns, its varied population included Spaniards, French, their dependents, Creoles, and Negroes, both free and slave. And the dichotomy between the two was amazing. And earlier today, I was speaking with a class, and there are always holes in history. And what the great son Ross said is that history repeats itself, repeats itself. History repeats itself. History is his story, now what's yours? Okay, the globes take on many different shades, but each piece is asking the same kind of question about the way that we connect with each other, the way that we see ourselves, and the way that we view the world. This country is always in process of developing. It's a set of ideas, a work in progress. United States is just an idea, it always has been. It's an idea that has been continuously formed and remade. Artists are in a unique position to remake the nation because we are not afraid of change. In fact, we are driven to make change because we have the curse of creativity. It's a gift and it's a curse. It means you are looking at the world with your eyes wide open. Hook with a hoe. She didn't know she was going to have her foot in her mouth. And then on the rebound, because there's always hope. Kiss the cake. This is a piece that I did for Marette Oppenheimer. She did the furry cup, so, except they're salt and pepper shakers. You know, this world is all that we have. And if we don't protect it, then what will happen? I mean, this is what we have. This is where we have to be. We're all in here together. This is a piece from 1994. I was reading James Weldon Johnson's autobiography of an ex-colored man when he was grappling with issues of identity. And at the same time, I was building my first, I had just built my first bottle house. This is the wrong date, and I did that. This was more like 91. But anyway, I was building one of my bottle houses and working at the Exploratorium in San Francisco, which is a Museum from Art, Science, and Human Perception. And I was thinking about memory and the place that memory plays in one life and how memory can influence my way of thinking and making art. And this is the atrium of the California African American Museum in Los Angeles. And what happens is, as the light changes, the shadows of these bottles are cast across the sand. You can actually like walk in there. And on the back of the wall where that blue and white is, the words excerpt from James Weldon Johnson's uh, book is on there. This was Insight 94 in San Diego, From Cotton to Coal. What happened is that in the United States, it was a project sort of like a biennale, and to show the relationships between Mexico and the United States. There are so many countries that have been exploited for their natural and their human resources. And in California, near Bakersfield, there were cotton fields, and Mexicans picked cotton. And the coal is for those who pick cotton in the South. But coal turns to diamonds, and cotton you make clothes out of. When I did this room for Urania Cummings. Urania Cummings was from the Caribbean, and she was the first Black person I met with an accent. And she would pass by, I was, I guess, 3 when I started taking art classes, and she would pass by my house and always spend time to talk with me. And she would go on 2 doors and paint, where I also studied. And so this is a room for Urania Cummings. I did 3 rooms in the Oakland Museum, and from 3 different decades of my life, and this was one of them. And also during that time, Sochiko Io, a Japanese woman, was living with us. We had foreign students live with us. And so that's why you have the Japanese alphabet. Crossings is the 40th anniversary of the Berkeley Art Center. The Berkeley Art Center is located in a park in North Berkeley, and it's an octagon-shaped building. And I love it when people say you can do whatever you want to do. And this was one of those projects. And so I took these, Eddie, can you remember how many eggs there was? Was it like 4,000 or something? Yeah, it was close to that. These are ceramic eggs. And what I did was I put a parallelogram of these ceramic eggs and on the floor. And they represent the middle passage. And do you guys know what the middle passage is? It's when Africans came from West Africa to the so-called New World, because until Columbus discovered it wasn't here. And what happens is this experience is not just about Black folks, it's about all of us. I mean, it's about history. And so as you walk through these eggs, you see there are lights that are red and they're white because you can position yourself within that Rococo mirror. Safe House. Safe House I did for the opening of the African American Museum in San Francisco. And we have all these, silver objects that we just keep on the shelf and don't do anything with. Every now and then we might pull them out for Thanksgiving and then put them back in the closet. And so I decided, because home is not always safe. And so the silver goes from polished to tarnished to this wall on the right, is that it? Okay, the wall with knives in it. And I did this because I heard a story about this woman. She was 14 and she was getting raped by a brother-in-law. And she pretended that she was dead. And then when she jumped up, she got a knife and it stuck in the wall. And so this piece is a result of that. Parenthetically speaking, it's only a figure of speech. Quincy Troop is a poet whose work I've worked with on a number of things, The Bridge and then this. And he has a poem that I'll read at the end of this that it moved me so until this piece is a result. I was working at Pilchuck, which was started by Dale Chihuly. Again, I was invited up there, and I can't believe I wasn't going to go. And then I decided, well, it's an opportunity to work with his gaffers and to make something different. So I scaled up there were 52 punctuation marks. And I placed them on the wall like this so that the viewer or the spectator could make their own story. Clear Story. Clear Story, New Orleans is at Xavier University, and it's 92,000 bottles. And this is supposed to be my last house. And that's why it's in the shape of an M. Eichler built houses is this Joseph Eichler? I think that's his name. It was an architect in California, and he built beautiful houses that brought the inside out, and they were affordable. And they're all over California, especially Northern California. So this piece was influenced by that. And you can see, you can walk through this. There's the box where I was making these. I found all these little tiny bottles in a recycling place. So they go from about 1 inch to a regular wine-sized bottle. Abode Sanctuary for the Familiar. It was shown also in Insight, originally in Insight 94. This is at the San Jose Museum of Art. And I'm really happy to say that Blackbird in a Red Sky is going to go to Battery Park in New York sometime within the next year. It's a red house with 400 floating red glass apples. And when you stand inside of the house, you can see Mount Rainier. Actually, she ran for president. People forgot about that. The house that will not pass for any color other than its own. This piece I did for the Sacramento airport. And I went to the California Historical Society to look at historical letters. And what you can't see, or maybe you can, let me figure out. See where that looks like an H? Okay. What I did was I scaled up fragments of historical letters and had those fragments mirrored. That was then laminated to this aubergine glass. And so you're standing in this house looking at fragments of yourself that are from historical, but it's in today's time. This piece I did in Germany, and it was then shipped back to here. So I always seem to work in multiples. And These are some pieces that I did when I came back from Cairo, because I was so influenced by, you're going down the street and you'll see this Mercedes Benz and all these cars, and there's tons of traffic, and then there'll be a cart with a donkey. You'll see veiled and unveiled people. And so this work is a result of that, the layers of information, the layering of, of society. Avenues along the key system route. I don't know if you remember, but was it in when did the General Motors and Ford bought up all the railroad tracks? Because they wanted to promote cars. And, and that went throughout the United States. And then what happened is that avenues in the San Francisco Bay Area, there was the train system was called Key System. So this is based on what you see along that route. Safe for color. I had a box of gold dust washing powder for years. And Don Farnsworth, who runs Magnolia Edition, said, well, why don't you come do some work? And then so I said, well, I'm going to take these gold dust and put myself on them. That's why I named it Safe for Color. But in the coins, I have Sacagawea, I have Booker T. Washington coins mixed in with the other coins that are on there. In 2012, I traveled to Dakar. I was invited there to do a piece for the, the embassy that was being built. And the color there was just so amazingly beautiful, as were the people. So these few slides are of Dakar. Look how tall that man is in the store. Yeah. Which resulted in island people on Blue Mountain. So Blue Mountain is a small city. It's in Lyons, Colorado, and I go there to work maybe every 18 months to do a set of prints, and or yeah, monotypes, and I had been carrying around these 1898 books that I inherited from my mother, and we live in this world, and it's divided by bodies of water, but we don't have walls. We have bodies of water and land. And so I decided to do something that talked about all those people, and it resulted in Island People on Blue Island. Somebody's phone. It's all good, don't worry. I have to read this one. The thing about hip hop is smart, it's insightful, the way they can communicate a message in a very short space. President Obama. The millennials, and after the millennials, then there's the XYZ. This is Soldier, and Soldier standing next to three women, four women workers, a civil, what is I can't see from here, but they in various aspects of keeping this country going during World War II. And then below him is a World War I. And this is when I talked earlier about creativity. My mother gave me these 1940 newspapers, and I had carried them around for like months. And when I was invited to Sharks Inc. in Colorado, I also did this series. because Soldier is standing on the backbones of this, as is JC. I've been a witness to this game. So, I started working on this before the Me Too movement. And most women I know are very, very courageous. They're doing multiple roles. This is Angelica Merrill. She's chair of the Visual and Public Arts program in Monterey and also a photographer. So I juxtapose these bell-like gowns onto these bingo cards because, she's a real prize, as is Beyonce and Ira. Ira runs Magnolia Editions along with her husband, Don Farnsworth. Nasha May Lindo, she's chair of the California Arts Council, and she spoke here many years ago. Mary Lovelace O'Neill, a painter, emeritus UC Berkeley. These are all women that you guys should know. Johanna Pethick, she's a public artist, a performance artist, a ceramicist, and I'm working with her. She has on the pink on a big project in Oakland. We're doing a series of kiosks that go from one city to the next. And then Squeak Conworth, emeritus at UC Berkeley, and she's founder of the Artist Legacy Program. And they give out $25,000 a year anonymously to an artist. Lava Thomas, an artist and an activist. And my daughter, Tamisa, she's a hairstylist and went back and studied carpentry and became a construction worker, and she's now a union activist. And my last series that I did based on Casanova, who I thought was mythical. I didn't think he was really real. And in 2014, I had work. In fact, it's the parenthetically speaking was in the Arsenale in Venice. And I went to the antique bookstore and I found these books. And I decided, and I couldn't buy them then because they were so terribly expensive. A year later, I had sold some work. I was still thinking about it. And I said, I'm going to call him and see if I can, the owner, if I can buy these books. And that's when I started this whole series, which I did at Sharks Inc. in Colorado. So this is a series that I did based on Casanova. I mean, I changed them up a little bit. I made her brown, kept him white. You know why? Because people move around. I mean, one of the things I realized and everything is not always about hate. Some things really are about love, even though Casanova was misogynistic. So I decided to take his story and make it my story. And so I changed them up. When I was in Egypt and went into the pyramids, those large ships that are supposed to take people to the new world that they have in the pyramids. And I came back to Venice and I realized how similar the gondola was to those really large ships. So I'm thinking, okay, so they just moved on up here and they hooked up with these people. And so these are all based on that series. And some of those are in the show. So I want to so remember that everything depends on your perspective. I was given a tape by the Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh, and what he said has remained with me for decades later. It's how you perceive the world. And what he said was, every time I look at the newspaper, I see the sun, the rain, and the forest. Isn't that wonderful? Most people just see the news, but you might see the whole universe, even as simple as a newspaper. So back to that glass of water that I showed at the beginning of my lecture. Everything you want to know about that glass of water is right in front of you. Why does it interest me? Is it the shadows through the clear object? What would happen if I shifted the glass or added multiple light sources? Will the light projected on the glass reflect or refract? These are some of the things that spark my curiosity, that can take me on a path of discovery and learning, just in this simple object. Thank you. So you can ask me some questions if you want. Y'all don't have no questions? Oh, that's my grandson. He does hip hop. He's done a few Nike commercials. He just was touring down in Southern California, and he's really good. You can listen to him on SoundCloud and on YouTube. And it's Mylez, then B. Oh, that came from reading James Weldon Johnson's autobiography of an ex-colored man. And what happened is, in this section story, the kid had a lot of African Americans put bottles in the ground, neck down, to keep the bad spirits away. And he dug them up. Yeah, he dug them up. So he got in trouble for digging them up. But it just popped into my head the next day. And that's the reason. Yes. In San Francisco, once a month they have flea markets all the time, but this one is at Treasure Island and at Alameda Island. There's a guy who sells old books and maps, and he had all these vintage dresses. And all of those are from vintage dresses. I took a photograph of the person posing like the dress, and I put the two together on top of old bingo cards. Some was down on the computer and some were just cut out. And then the frame is litho with gold leaf. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
What did you do to them? You didn't make the whole tapestry.
No, but it's mine. Yeah, no, it was done like a collage, and I put the map over the woman's face. I changed the color of her face. That was done on computer, and then I put the mask is a mask that I had that I took off my wall and photographed, and I put that over his head, and the cowrie shells I put those in his hand. Yes. You and then you. Okay. You know, it's really hard to say because I get so engrossed with whatever I'm working on at the moment. Right now, I'm really like what I see out there. I don't know which one I like more than the other because they each have sort of their own story. There's some that have moved me more than others at that moment, but right now, I like what I see out there. I used to make jewelry when I was younger. I haven't done it in a long time. Oh yeah, you just could squish it like this to make it like that. It just, see? Yeah, I know. Um, let's see. Just having enough time. You know, earlier I said that art is my passion because I can do it, but it's also a curse because I can do it. And it's like, it's a lot of work. It's really, I mean, it's a discipline. And you have to continuously be um, open to new ideas and not be afraid to explore those ideas. So I don't know, the challenge is the good part because that's where you know you're learning something. If you can do it, it's just, oh, I could do this. But when you're challenged, you're learning something new. I don't know. I don't know if it's one thing. I mean, at one point in my career, you know, I had 2 kids, 5 jobs, but I was still making art. Okay, 1, 2, and then 3. Yes.
What piece of advice would you give to young artists?
To what I would say is learn as much as you can. Take advantage of those who, if you're in school, take advantage of your instructors. I mean, you know, when you're young, you think you know everything, but you really don't. You really don't. And really work hard. And when you think you've worked hard, work a little bit more. And learn how to do something else. Because we're all, you know, we're not just one dimensional. And then, okay. No, no, I don't. I don't know. I mean, I may do some abstract pieces, but I guess I don't think that way. I just do what I feel like it. That's what happens when you get older. And you don't care what people think. Yeah. And the pink, and then over here. Yeah.
And you said that you connect with the
It comes with a lot of, and I said I was going to read some poetry. I'll read one.
love everything you
I'll read one. This is one that's going to go, it's this piece in, and that I'm doing for Stevenson Street. And I'm going to read it because I met this woman at Atlantic Center for the Art. And she read poetry about artists, and you could really kind of feel like you were there. But I'll answer yours first. She wanted to know if my parents, well, my parents said I could do whatever I felt, ever I wanted to do. Yes, they were antique dealers and political and community activists. So, you know what? Because I mean, it's like it's my world, my journey, and that goes for each of you. It's your world, it's your journey. You do what you want. Before I read this, are there any other questions? And this is about Stevenson Street in San Francisco, which is kind of like an alley. And Stevenson Street was, at one time, the ports came all the way up to Stevenson Street. And it really talks about San Francisco. So, on Stevenson Street on a January night where docks once reached, I hollow the small of my arched back. I am San Francisco on a rainy corner of the financial district beneath dark skies, bright footsteps. I drip light from cornices of olive branches. I am rain falling from cast iron pilasters. I am mother of pearl, short street, rippling like shot silk. I am memory of shipbuilders and saloon keepers. I am blue, indigo-dyed cotton, filling the valley. The stitching of seamstresses, I am needlework. Of migration street relic of prayer. A rumor of gold spilled on the sidewalk. I am the ghost, waving goodbye to children, holding hands, walking out of the museum, shouting above the rain. I am lovers soaked by downpour. I am workers hurrying home, each one a bronze core, a penny, the copper face of the shore cast across the waters. Catherine Smith. Thank you. That's it. Okay.
Well, thanks to Mildred for a wonderful talk and a fantastic exhibit. If you've not seen it already, it is open in the Nancy Records Gallery. Of course, the reception is adjacent to the auditorium. Thank you all for coming and enjoy.
Okay. All right. Yeah.